And you can do this with pieces of jewelry, smash them. You can't see it, but this is an earring, and because it's made thin, you can smash the heck out of that with one hand and tell. And here's a piece. It's been made hollow because they wanted to conserve the metal. Also, the lady who was wearing this, she didn't want it to pull her top off. She wants it to be light, and the lighter a piece is, the more comfortable it's going to be to wear. So it benefits everybody to make it light and thin and cheaply as less material as possible. Now, when you find a piece like this, it's going to work kind of like those 14 karat puffed earrings or puffed hearts, where you can push them in with your fingernail. That's what you can do on this piece. Now, if it's a nice saleable piece, you may want to do it some other way, because when you push your fingernail in on one of these pieces, and if it does that, it dents just with your finger pressure, you're gonna know it's silver, it's gold, whatever the case may be. It's not going to be plated, because they just do not go to the expense of making it very thin and dainty. It makes their manufacturing process harder to do something like that. Bending test is very valuable on big trays, little trays, any kind of tableware. As I mentioned before, coffee pots and things. I mean, you can grab the spout and do some bending and very easily assess it. Now, this is a piece here that my brother had picked, and it's very unusual, because I tell you guys to not spend a lot of time thinking about unmarked items, because it doesn't happen very often, and that is absolutely the case. But this is a little award picture of some kind, and the inside pot is clearly marked sterling, and the outside piece, which clearly is a match for it, I don't know what its purpose is really, keep from burning the table, I'm not sure, but it's not marked, and rarely would you ever see that. Now, when you bend it, it acts like a piece of silver-plated pewter. When you're doing things such as trying to classify what you're picking using the bend test, silver-plated pewter is your worst enemy, because it is the one material that can fool you. Now, the silver plating on the pewter may crack up, and that would tell you that this is not a piece of silver, because you would see the plating start to give way on that. But it doesn't always do that. The thing is, when you're bending a piece of plated pewter, it's too soft. And that is how this piece is. This piece here now has been tested like 4 or 5 times. No one could believe that it was actually silver. Why it's so soft, I'm not real sure, but it is silver. It actually tests out higher than 925, so maybe that's why it's so soft. So, I wish I could have done more in both of these videos, and maybe the reason that I have not tried to touch more on these 2 topics before, and that is the quick identifier or the quick classifier for silver items, and the quick identifier, quick classifier for chains, and that is, it's just an experience thing, and kind of hard to get across to people on video, because you just have to be feeling it with your hands. Now, this piece here, strength, extremely easy to bend. Perhaps it's because it's cut down between each link and there's just not a lot of material there, but that feels like pewter or rubber or a wet noodle or something. It bends so easily, it's incredible. It normally tells you that it's silver, although, you know, if silver was up at $50, you might you know, be extra careful. I would say to study the bending characteristics of sterling, and that's probably going to be your best bet. I'm not sure I can teach a lot here on the bending or the smelling or anything like that. I told someone I would give it a shot, and it just is not going to happen. Now here's something that, you know, might make some sense, and that is that the bowl itself on a piece of silver plate, you're probably not going to be able to bend and manipulate it. Now on a piece of sterling, it's no problem. Once you do that, it's trashed, and you're never going to be able to fix it. So, you know, don't do it to a nice piece, and don't do it to something you haven't already bought. That would be a little ridiculous. Now, nobody's watching, nobody cares about it or whatever. I suppose you could do that to a spoon, and even if you were blind and couldn't see the marking, you would know that if the bowl does that, it's silver. Providing it's not like a dark gray, has that pewter look, then hey, it may actually be a pewter spoon. Pewter spoons are pretty rare, so I wouldn't worry a whole lot about the pewter silver plated items, but it does happen. Now sometimes you'll see some real fuller pieces. Here's a sterling fork that is just made really beefy, and it still has the same bend, but it's certainly not like this, or not like most of this other stuff that we have felt. So, and that's what makes this video such a hard video to do. You're just gonna have to study this, but you know, when something is this rigid, then, you know, you just take it to the next step. You look for markings, you test it, whatever the case may be, to determine whether you want to buy it or whether you want to stay away from it. I hope these videos have been a little bit helpful. I didn't have a lot of materials drug out to work on these this time, and I probably should have drug out a little more. But I hope that helped a little bit. I think that you're just going to have to self-study the bending principles of silver and the clasp of chains on your own to get a good feel for that. But there are several concrete rules on both the bending and on the chain clasp, and we just covered female ends. I'm sure there's a few rules that would cover the male ends as well. I concentrate mostly on the female ends when I'm out picking, and it saves a lot of time. Oftentimes when you do run across unmarked items or very unusual items, such as a tea set that's marked 835 or something, and nobody understands it, if you're using these back to the basic type testing methods that require no tools, smelling, tasting, bending, observing, you'll win every time over other pickers, because they're just not up to speed with your skills and experience on what to look for. And it won't matter what the marking is, or if there's a marking, hidden marking, removed marking, etc. You will know by the characteristics of the metal. So that's probably all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. Good buying. Get out there and get to picking, because at least if you're in the Midwest or north of that, winter's coming, and your picking days are limited to indoor sales.